Welcome back to Analytical Strategy. Today we are talking about 10 moments where bad karma played a role in the downfall of particular castaways, alliances or even tribes. Now when we say bad karma, we aren't referring to the bad dancing by the Karma tribe in the edge of extinction, but actions that castaways made that in turn shaped the future of their games. Each action you make in Survivor has a consequence, whether that be good or bad. There are times where just one sentence can get you voted out of the game, so it is very important to try and remain level-headed wherever possible and ensure you are not giving other contestants a reason to turn on you. Now, as there are so many examples of this occurring over the past 20 years, I'm just going to be discussing 10 moments which stood out to me for a number of reasons. So just before we get stuck into it, just a very quick reminder that if you are enjoying this content or are new to the channel, to please hit that subscribe button, as there'll be many more Survivor discussions to come in the future. The support the channel is receiving as it continues to grow does not go unnoticed, so it's a big thank you to everyone who is a part of this great community. It really means a lot, and without further ado, let's get into this karma countdown. So firstly, we're going to be discussing Candice and Jonathan's decision to commit mutiny in Survivor Cook Islands, and the aftermath that ensued. In this season, the contestants were given the chance to switch to the other tribe, which Candice and Penna jumped at the opportunity to do so. This caused the formation of the I-24, one of the greatest alliances in the history, to start their comeback to the game. They started to go on a winning streak, and each and every time they won, they would send their previous tribe member in Candice to Exile Island. So the only benefit of going to exile was to search for the idol, but you'll already possess this, so this was strictly a personal decision based on Candice's decision to leave their original tribe. Now luckily enough for Candice and Jonathan, even though they lost all these immunity challenges, they were able to survive up until the merge. But this is where Yul made the biggest move of the season, by luring Penna back to his side with the threat of the idol, to take control of the game. After Yul and the I-24 had gained control of the game, Penna was no longer use of them, and Candice and Penna were sent packing back to back, and the underdog story was complete, with this core 4 alliance lasting all the way to the end of the game, and in turn resulting in the bad karma for Penna and Candice's decision. So following this, we're going to be discussing Cochran flipping on his tribe in Survivor South Pacific. So Cochran was an outsider from the get-go in his original season, really struggling to fit in socially in a tribe with big personalities, and a huge focus on winning challenges. Due to this, Cochran was often criticised, or one of the targets at almost every tribal council this tribe attended, leading up until the merge. Once the merge hit and the tribes were even, it seemed like it could have gone down to a dead heat and a potential rock draw. As Ozzy had immunity, and played his hidden immunity idol for Whitney, in a rock draw situation, Cochran's tribe had a good chance in the odds to obtain the power and run the game. However, due to the way Cochran was treated, combined with the fear of going home from a rock draw, this resulted in him flipping on the revote and joining the Apollo tribe for the remainder of the game. This makes the list, as if Cochran was treated with more respect throughout the early stages of the game, he may have been more willing to go to a rock draw and fight for his original tribe. But Keith went home that evening, and the remaining members of this tribe were picked off one by one to give Apollo the control of the game. So up next, we're going to be talking about how Zapatera shot themselves in the foot by deliberately voting Russell Hantz off their tribe. Within this season of Survivor Redemption Island, there were 2 returnees in Russell Hantz and Boston Rob, and it is very important to mention that this is the first season Russell played where people actually had seen him play before. Due to this, both tribes are hoping that they would get Boston Rob on their team, as they had seen how much damage Russell did in both Samoa and Heroes vs Villains. So even due to being on a tribe with contestants that clearly did not want him there, Russell was able to lead Zapatera to win the first 2 immunity challenges, but by day 8 they decided to throw the 3rd immunity challenge purely just to get Russell out of the game. After Russell was voted out, Zapatera's immunity performances went downhill, losing 3 of the next 4 and entering the merge down in numbers, which ultimately caused their demise. The vote off of Russell was purely out of fear from the Zapatera tribe, which was clearly the incorrect move, because as villainous as Russell is portrayed in the show, he's actually extremely loyal to his original tribe, so much so that he's been willing to put his own body on the line for his tribe in the chance that it can result in them all getting further in the game. This move really came back to bite these contestants, and if Russell stayed in the game and this challenge wasn't thrown, one of them just may have made it to the end and had the opportunity to win the game. So up next we have the biggest badass manipulator this game has ever seen in Drew Christy, and how he was able to basically vote himself out of the game all in one single episode. So whilst Drew was on exile, he devised this plan that could never possibly fail in throwing a challenge without the consent of his tribe to eliminate some of the women in the game, in particular Kelly Wentworth, due to him being fearful they may come after the men in this tribe. After single-handedly costing them the immunity win, he put this plan into action, going balls to the wall to get Kelly out of this game due to how knowledgeable she was when it came to Survivor, and rubbing all of his tribe mates the wrong way in the process. This caused the men to put their votes on different members of the tribe, whilst as Drew predicted, the women came together to get him out of the game. This is the definition of bad karma in Survivor, and contestants really need to keep their ego in check to succeed in Survivor. So up next, we're going to be discussing Laura Murray at Redemption, deliberately saving Tina, thinking she's the easiest contestant to beat in the upcoming challenges. Firstly, I actually really like this move from Laura. Being able to choose who you can keep at Redemption is an amazing strategic idea to further your position in the game, by giving you the best chance to win at the returning challenges. However, the person she decided to keep in the game was Tina, and Tina was able to take over when it came down to crunch time. Tina, Laura and Hayden competed in the final challenge where they had to balance with one foot on the ground and the other on a balancing platform with a vase, and the person who was able to keep their vase on that platform the longest won the challenge. Laura seemed uncomfortable from the get-go in this challenge, whilst Tina was as solid as a rock, and she was able to win her very first duel just in the nick of time. Laura unfortunately decided to keep the wrong person in the game, and keeping Tina may have just cost Laura her spot to re-enter the game. So in a change of karma from strategic-based decisions, we are now going to look at a really comical moment of bad karma in Survivor, and that is Butch and his constant gathering of firewood throughout Survivor the Amazon. It really turned into an obsession for Butch as the game went on, constantly gathering and encouraging his trimates to do the same. Unfortunately, whilst the contestants were competing in a challenge, the camp burnt to the ground inclusive of most of the tribe's belongings. The contestants believe this blaze was caused due to Butch's obsession with gathering copious amounts of wood, so this has to make the list, just for the humour alone, along with the distinctive nature of this event occurring. So now we're going to move back into a strategic karma moment, and we're going to look at Gabby's elimination in David vs Goliath as soon as she turned on her buddy Christian. Now Christian and Gabby were joined at the hip for basically the entirety of the game. Christian was the person Gabby leant on when she was at her lowest, and he was able to keep her mind in check and really be that person to provide her constant support. Gabby correctly realised that working with Christian and making all of the moves that they did together was only going to increase Christian's resume and not hers, given the perception that the other castaways had of Christian within the game. So Gabby decided it was time to take charge against Christian and get her partner in crime out of the game. Davey was able to warn Christian of this plan Gabby had put together, and as Gabby was the backup vote, Christian successfully played his idol, negating the majority vote against him and sent Gabby home. I think Gabby was correct in making this play against Christian, but it was possibly a vote or two too early, and it unfortunately cost her her spot in the game. I would love to see Gabby come back and play again in a future season. So moving right along, we're going to be talking about how JT caused himself to be a target in the game by leaking information to the other tribe during Malcolm's crazy vote out in Survivor Game Changers. In one of the more controversial twists, a joint tribal council was conducted between two of the three tribes, but only one person went home between them. Malcolm became the target of the Mana tribe, and after JT decided to spill the beans on who Nuku was voting for to Brad Culpepper, Malcolm unfortunately didn't stand a chance and was sent packing that night. Now this didn't bode well for the Nuku tribe. They were initially confused about how Ty was able to figure out to play his idol on Sierra, but it didn't take long for them to figure out that JT was behind this information leak. So after some more chaos back at camp involving sugar stealing, and then another immunity loss, JT was pretty confident in everyone being on board for Michaela going home. I mean, he didn't even bring his hidden immunity idol to tribal. Queen Sandra though had other plans, recruiting Jeff Varner and Michaela to take JT out. Michaela sipped on her teacup as the votes were read and told JT to tell Malcolm he was responsible for sending him home as he left tribal council. Yes, the ultimate karma for JT for turning on his tribe. So up next, we cannot have this list without including Tyson's blindside from Survivor Tocantins. We could easily have also spoken about Tyson blindsiding himself within Heroes vs Villains as well, but I feel the Tocantins blindside often gets overlooked as one of the all-time great blindsides in Survivor history. Tyson found himself in a power position and allowed this power to take over his head and more specifically his arrogance. He was able to make the merge with a clear number advantage, and he had his right hand man and coach eating out of the palm of his hand, and he was able to win back-to-back immunities when the merge hit. So the next target in Tyson's sights was Sierra, and he didn't have a very strong relationship with her to say the least. Now after Brendan's blindside, Sierra tried to amend this broken relationship, but with Tyson's confidence increasing, he decided to continue openly antagonizing Sierra and targeting her as the next to go. Once Tyson failed to win immunity, Steven and JT decided to target him due to him being such an immunity threat and sent him home in a fantastic tribal council. So Tyson's face crack when he realised it was him going home from all of the votes of his name kept coming up. From really smug to overly concerned was absolutely pure gold. And this vote was a big surprise to not only Coach and Debbie who were on the outside of the vote, but also Sierra, who considered herself a guarantee to go home. I love Tyson, especially Tocantins Tyson. He's one of my favourite all-time characters, but this has to be a contender for one of my favourite bad karma moments in Survivor history. So finally, we're going to be discussing the downfall of Paul from the Gen X tribe in Millennials vs Gen X. So Paul started off in the leader role of this tribe, and there is no other place he would have wanted to be, forming strong relationships with Brett and Chris and having the power in his hands. This power slipped away from Paul though in just one small conversation with Jessica. Jessica was worried of an all-male alliance forming within the Gen X tribe, where Paul replied that if there was an all-guys alliance, he would go with them no matter what. I think Paul slightly mixed up his words when this occurred, but openly stating you are open to the formation of an all-male alliance to a woman in your alliance, it cannot look good in any way, shape or form. This ultimately cost Paul the game, where Jessica rallied the women along with Ken and David to take him out at the following tribal council. And that rounds out this list of 10 moments of bad karma in Survivor. What moments can you think of which didn't make this list? Are there any particular topics you would like me to discuss? Please leave a comment down below. As always, thanks to everyone for watching, and smash that like and subscribe button to assist in supporting the channel. This is Analytical Strategy signing out once again, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.